Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Meta Cafe. Grab your cup of coffee. I have my orcas this morning in Orcas Island, just out to my west. Anyway, grab your cup of coffee or your tea, whatever it is you drink in the morning. Sit back and relax, and let's talk about the astrology of the day. I'm going to make this one fairly quick today, and let's just dig right in then and discover what's going on. So today we are looking at September 11th, a day that I'm sure lives in everybody's memory for the Trade Center attacks. And in the spirit of memory, I want to just honor the people who served that day and who gave their lives so the rest of us could live in peace. Not sure what else to say about it because there's so many different stories about it, so many things that good morning from Bulgaria. Anne, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Lord, let's see. It must be well into your day in Bulgaria. It's funny. I was telling somebody the other day that the bulk of people, if there's a country out there that I draw people from, and it's bizarre because I don't, I'm not Bulgarian, but I draw people from Bulgaria. It is the one country. I don't know why. And Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, Serbia, what is the other country? Lithuania, Albania, whatever those countries are, right through there. But Bulgaria, craziness, right? Besides the USA, besides Canada and Australia, the next country is Bulgaria. One day I'm going to visit Bulgaria just so I can see what it is that the people do there that are drawn to astrology and to human design and to gene keys. In fact, Anne, if you were drawn to me because of the gene keys, perhaps at some point, I think it is the summer of 2020, there is a trip planned for the gene key ambassadors to gather in Bulgaria, which to me is just interesting, right? How strange. I'm a Brit. It's 6 p.m. here. Please come. Well, there must be something that's calling us to Bulgaria because, like I said, it is the one, let's say, country other than like the big ones, Canada, the US, and Australia, that I seem to draw people from. It's interesting. And Laura saying, I'm Canadian, but my mother is Bulgarian and have relatives there. Oh my goodness. Well, one of these days I'm going to go there because that's where the Gene Keys conference, I guess, is going to be from. Good morning, Jan Harley. Good afternoon. I'm not sure where you are that it would be afternoon. You must be in Europe as well. Or maybe, I don't know where else you might be. Let us know where you're coming from, Jan. Anyway, good morning, Michelle Brooks. It's good to see all of you out there this morning. And so I'm going to jump right in and talk about the void of course moon. We have one, a longer one. Remember the other day we had like a 13-minute or 8-minute void of course moon. Well, this one is going to be several hours. It is beginning this afternoon at 3:58 p.m. Pacific time. So if you are on the East Coast of the United States, that means 6:58 p.m. for you, lasting until 11:15 tomorrow morning. And that would be 2:15 p.m. for you all on the East Coast tomorrow afternoon. So a good chunk of your day, if you're on the East Coast tomorrow, is really locked up in the void of course, just meaning that, anything new is not necessarily supported. The void of course moon is a time where the moon is not making any newer connections to any planets or any points in a chart. And so there's kind of this lull that occurs in the energy for that day, or for that hour or those few minutes. And so the kinds of things that are more favored, the activities that are more favored for a void of course moon are things like yoga or meditation or study, or, going within, journaling, the things that are much quieter and more inward. Jan is saying that she is in England and it is 4 p.m. there. Well, welcome, Jan. I'm so glad you were able to join us this morning on my coast and this afternoon on your coast. So you're reaching the end of your day and we are just beginning ours here in Washington State where I live. Let's see, anybody else out here that I haven't said hello to? Good morning, Asa. It's good to see you this morning, Michelle Gay. Goofy morning, all. She's got a daughter that's about 10, so she must be in Disney World this morning. Good morning, Suzanne Fulmer. Good morning, Suzanne Bronlin. It is good to see all of you out there this morning. So today we have the moon in Libra. And of course, a void of course moon is telling us that the moon is going to change signs. Literally, that is the whole day today. The moon is finishing up its transit through the sign of Libra and preparing for her eventual move into the sign of Scorpio. So today we have the moon in Libra squaring Pluto and squaring Pluto to Capricorn. So we have cardinal signs that are new beginnings, that are also the signs really where we're breaking out of old patterns, where we break into something new. Of course, we're still in the shadow of the new moon that happened on Sunday. So we're still in the potential for something new to appear, for us to be able to engage in something new. And I'm wondering, because the sun is also today in a very powerful configuration to Pluto, trining Pluto, if there isn't something about I'm sorry. It's autocorrect. Anybody have any funny autocorrect stories? Because like I do, there are tons of autocorrect stories. So Michelle is saying, nope. She was trying to say, let's do it, but instead it came out, let's be goofy. Autocorrect, right? It's a source of humor for a lot of us. At any rate, so when we have the moon and the sun both aspecting a planet, it kind of calls that planet up into our awareness in a way that maybe normally we're just not really aware. So what's been simmering below the surface now is bursting out into the outer world. And what we're looking at then is the concept of power versus powerlessness. And our favorite Black Moon Lilith is also underscoring that for us from her position in Aquarius. That really brings up for us that idea of where is it we are leaking power? Where are we giving it away? And where is it that we are not calling in the power of ourselves? And that's an interesting topic. I think it's an insidious sort of problem that we have at times, where we are leaking energy in some way, shape, or form. Your energy healers out there will talk to you about that sometimes when you go to see them. They're talking about where you're letting go of your power, or where energy is leaking out of you. And that seems to be a theme that we're working with today, with the sun and the moon, both in sort of tricky aspects to the planet Pluto. At the same time today, the sun is also in a very favorable position to Jupiter. And it's interesting because Jupiter's in the sign of Scorpio, which is co-ruled by Mars and Pluto. So do you think Pluto's up today? I think it is, right? And Pluto is literally sometimes that dive into the underworld. It is a planet that I like to tell people it takes no prisoners. You can demote Pluto all you like. You can make it a dwarf planet from a planet. You could even turn it into an asteroid if you wanted to, but it doesn't take away the power that this planet has to transform our lives. And remember late last week, we realized that Jupiter and was it Jupiter and Uranus were in a very powerful sort of configuration that it was Jupiter and Pluto, excuse me, in a powerful sextile that connoted the energy of wealth creation. And of course, that can't take place unless you are pulling in your power. You have to have all the parts working, right? You have to have all of the things working to actually claim power. So an interesting day. It's light in terms of the number of aspects that the moon or the sun is making, but they're powerful ones nonetheless. So it seems like we've given up quantity for quality today. The quality of the energy of the day is really about calling in our power and living from that power. Now, sometimes that power is related to, I'm going to back up for a minute. Yesterday, I don't know how many of you have been watching that series that I shared with you, the Sacred Medicine series. It's all about herbalism and natural healing methods. And yesterday they were talking about Lyme disease, or I guess this was actually the day before, as I was catching up on it yesterday afternoon. And they were talking about Lyme disease and how how pervasive Lyme disease really is, and how so much of, at least in the Western world, we've given away our power to generalized medicine, and that their answer, typically based on big pharma, is to throw drugs out at you. And so the whole thing about this whole healing thing, the whole of the 9 videos, I'm sure, is really about calling back our power as it relates to what's going on in our bodies, our physicality. And so many times, I mean, I know that every time I go to the doctor, they're trying to give me some new drug, right? If it's not because of my family history or my current state, they're trying to get me on cholesterol reducing medicines, or they're trying to get you on blood pressure medicines, or they call you diabetic so that you need to have some kind of medicines for that. But I was having a conversation with another doctor the other day who said that in his career, and his career spans about 25 years at this point, he's noticed one thing, that the power of doctors is even being diluted by big pharma, and that they are constantly changing the threshold by which they call you into a diseased state. So that means that what used to be normal blood pressure at 130/70, let's say, is now cause for alarm in your doctor because big pharma has convinced them that 130/70 needs drugs, right? Needs blood pressure medicine. And of course, then that leads them to start questioning your cholesterol, and they'll want you to get the tests and all this. So not to spread alarm and fear, but it's very easy in the face of these people who are authorities to give away your power, and your authority to believe what they're telling you about your health. And the entire video series then is about returning the power to you, and returning the power to herbs and to nature's natural plants in place of the synthetic and contrived drugs that the drug companies are out there offering for you. Now, of course, I'm not saying that you got to give up your blood pressure medicines or your diabetic meds. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that it's up to you to empower yourself and really do the deep dive that you need to do in order to find out what's really true for you and what's true for your body, empowering yourself, right? It's all about that. And it begins with research, it begins with conversations, it begins with really having an honest conversation with your doctor, perhaps, or other healing professionals. Do your due diligence in discovering this. And there, you know how I like words. And there was this gentleman that was on the show yesterday, or on the video about Lyme disease, and he was talking about the power of words, how the words have these meanings. And we know these meanings viscerally, that there's a meaning to it that even transcends what we think it means. For example, he said the word climate, and that the word climate was akin to state of mind. And then immediately, because my background is all in science, biology, chemistry, environmental science, I went to, whoa, climate change. Climate change. Does that equal a change in the state of our minds? It's interesting, don't you think? Good morning, Kristen. So anyway, inflammation, another word that we hear often in our health. And inflammation equals anger. So a lot of natural healers know that inflammation is often the source of inflammation in the body comes from anger, encrusted anger. A fever is rage, hot under the collar. We have all of these words that really bring us to deeper meanings for us, more unconscious even meanings. And when you start to really think about these words and what they mean and how we use them, it really can lead you to understand more about the truth of who you really are. It's weird, but it's true. I like to pull apart words. And that was one of the things that really stuck out at me about this series yesterday, was about where have we been leaking power. So we could look up the word power. I haven't done that. I could do that. We could look at it numerologically, right? I often do that too. I'll pull up a word and just pull up the numbers on the word and see what it means. So we have 7 and 6 is 13, and 5 is 18, and 5 is 23, and 9 is 32. So the word power is a 5. Freedom, constructive use of freedom. And we all know how power can be used corrupted. It could become corrupted. What's that saying? Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I think there, in some respects, is a fear that we have sometimes of claiming our power, for the force within us may become corrupted. Who knows what the real fear is that we have? But we're going to be really looking at that fear. It's caught up in power, in our power or our lack of power. It is caught up this week in the planet Venus, as we've been looking at all of the energies that she's bringing to us as she prepares for her retrograde. And going back, for those of you who are new, a couple of weeks ago, we began this process of looking at Venus, because in the foreseeable future, and by that I mean to the end of the year, she is going to be sitting in the spleen in your human design chart. The spleen is about survival energy. It is about intuition, time, health. It is literally the energy of survival, or it is the energy where we want to create thriving and flourishing. And because of our friend Tom out there who joins us some mornings, he always listens later for sure, we discovered those words thriving and flourishing have such a juicy sort of feeling about it, that that's what we want to strive for. But it begins with our look at the shadows. It always begins with our look at the shadow, and the shadow is often fear, a fear that we are carrying. Good morning, Mary Morris, and anybody else who's joined us. Susan says, great information and reminders. Glad I use naturopathy. Oh, absolutely. So there are herbalists, there are naturopaths, there are many people out there. There are DOs. What are those? Doctors, osteopathic doctors, I believe is what they're called. And they're trained in a more holistic way of looking at the human body, as in not just throwing drugs at your symptoms, but looking deeper into the causality of some of the things that are going on, whether it be emotional, mental, or spiritual, or physical. And so we have choices out there, is basically the thing. So take your power back, right? Take your power back. Listen to your own body and its wisdom. Okay. Anyway, this was all a segue. Believe it or not, I was going someplace with this. And it was that Venus this week begins her transit of the gate 28, which, let me see if I pull out my little human design chart here and I can show you where gate 28 is. It is sitting down here in the spleen, of course. This is the spleen. This was the chart of the week, chart of that day. What day was this? The 10th, Monday. So here's the spleen here. And gate 28 sits right there, and it leads down toward the root center. It meets up at gate 38. So 38 is the channel. If you look at your own human design chart, you'll see whether it's open, meaning it's white, whether it is defined, meaning it's colored in. Is it hanging, meaning it's just gate 28, it's not all the way across, or is it all the way across, meeting up with gate 38? It could be black, it could be red, it could be striped, red and black. The only way you're going to know is to have your human design chart. And if you do not have a human design chart, you can go to my website, www.living-astrology.com. I think I'll type that in because sometimes people aren't sure what a hyphen is. I used to say dash, and then someone reminded me that it's not a dash. But I say it could be either. So here's my website. You can go get your free copy of your human design chart, or your natal astrology chart as well, which is important because often we're talking about astrology, and it's always nice to know where you have certain planets. And anyway, so today, when we look at gate 28, of course, we always begin by looking at the shadow. And by the shadow, again, I'm talking about the fear. So let's remind you, what is Venus representing for us? Venus, the planet, represents value. And from value, we get self-worth or worthiness. We can also call it that. We also find that Venus is extraordinarily feminine. She is receptive. She has receptive energy. She is also equated with the energy of love, physical love. And in that case, also the love that we have between people, i.e., in relationships. She is also the primary ruler of the sign Taurus and the sign Libra. So we have the energy then of relationships through Libra. And in the sign Taurus, we have the energy of money and finances and worthiness. So she holds rulership over those two signs at this moment, anyway. I would posit that she is definitely the ruler of Taurus, but that maybe there is a better ruler out there for Libra. Although I don't want to get into that right now, but there's the possibility that another planet or asteroid, dwarf planet, perhaps really resonates more deeply with Libra than Venus does. So the gate 28 in your human design is called the gate of tenacity. It is also called the gate of struggle. And so it is a tricky energy. And I think I mentioned earlier in the week, or maybe last week, that there are a lot of you out here who are millennials born probably early to mid 80s, all the way up to about 1999, that maybe even into the 2000s, that were born with this gate triggered in your human design. And so you come in here with this energy already imprinted in you of struggle. So let's look a little deeper at what this energy of tenacity or struggle is related to. In the gene keys, it is the shadow of purposelessness. Say that 10 times fast. Purposelessness. It is the gift of totality, and it is the siddhi or highest expression of immortality. So already just from the name of the gate or from the gene key, you already see that the possible fear here is related to death. And in the gene keys, Richard actually does a really good job of equating most of the fears as originating underneath it all in our fear of death. And the fear of death has two gut check reactions. One, we deny it, right? We deny it. We go about our lives just denying that there is death, or we become consumed by it. Those are two extremes of the expression. A lot of our demonic archetypes, the devil, ghosts or demons, are all arising as a personification of our unconscious fear of death. It's like we take all of those fears and we package them up, and we, as humans, we tend to personify things, right? We give them life, we give them human qualities. So we give our fears human qualities and we call them demons, or we call them devils, or any of the other archetypes that we have of these evil doers. And then this shadow of death, this fear of death, sets us up for a falsely constructed reality of good versus evil, of dark versus light. And we begin to really define everything in terms of these separate deals, right? So separateness. Instead of seeing that they're just the same side or a different side of the same coin, we take them and we make them separate. And then worse, we push away the dark side. We push away the fear because we don't want to own it. We don't want to look at it. If we looked at it, what would happen? We might really see that we're going to die, that death is real. And what does that mean? Oh my gosh. Now, on the good side of things, the fear of death has really sharpened our instincts as human beings over the course of our ancestry and our lineage. We have really sharpened our instincts, leading us to survive. We as a species have survived, right? We have thrived. We've been through the dinosaur ages. We've been through the ice ages. We've been through a lot of these different ages and things and come out on the surviving end. Right? There's not been a mass extinction of humans, at least not in recent memory. So we've done a good job. right? We've allowed that fear to create a basis for survival. But here we are now in the West, where the fear of survival is no longer really appropriate. I mean, certainly we could walk across the street, get hit by a car and die. We could, be the victim of any number of crimes or diseases, etc. But literally, those things are the unexpected. The expected things like starvation are mitigated. We don't have that now. So in a way, we've taken those survival energies, those fears that we have had in the past for surviving, and turned them into the false evidence appearing real types of fears. In the gate 28, which is where Venus will be sitting starting tomorrow, we've packaged up the fear of death in the questioning of our purpose, right? What is our purpose for being here? What is the purpose of life? If my purpose is no longer about having to survive, then what the bleep am I doing here? Right? We were so caught up energetically in leading a life of survival that we had purpose, right? We had crops to bring in. We had hunting that we had to do. We had clothes we had to make. We had food we had to process. We had things that defined our days, that defined our nights. We had purpose. But as time has gone by, our purpose has melted away with our need to survive. It's really kind of fascinating when you look at it this way. So we question our purpose. There isn't one of you that's had a reading with me that hasn't on some level questioned me about, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I here to do? Who am I here to be? I question myself all the time. I know what I'm here to do. I know who I'm here to be. The question is whether or not I'm supported in doing it. That's where I fall short. And some of you have that same feeling, right? I know what I'm here to do. I know who I'm here to be, but am I supported in doing that? Others of you might have the support that you need to do what you want to do, but you're not sure what it is you want to do. You don't know who it is you're here to be. So we're always in some way questioning this idea of our purposes. So essentially, we can boil this down to two core purposes as humans, right? One is to maintain our health for as long as we can in the body, so that we have a vehicle, a vessel to live through on the planet. The interface between our soul and our body, or the earth, is the body, right? This is many people call it your temple. Sometimes I laugh about it and I call it my meat suit, right? It's the vessel through which we are moving through the world. Your second core purpose as a human being is to evolve. What does evolution mean? That is a really good question too. What does it mean to evolve? And evolution as a human perspective is about creating your unique conscious signature, your creative uniqueness. What are you here to do? Who are you here to be? That is one of the core definitions, if you will, of evolution. And the other one is to release your creative genius. And in order to meet your creative genius, to unleash it, you have to meet the dark side. You have to face your fears. You got to face the fear of purposelessness or of death or of any of the other fears that you might have. And it's interesting too, because this week also, I believe it was, Jupiter moves out of gate 1, which is the search for your life purpose, by the way. This is really kind of funny. Funny in a not ha-ha, but like in a odd set of circumstances. Jupiter's been sitting at gate 1 in your human design, which is the search for life purpose, for self-expression. Like, who am I here to be? How am I here to express myself? And this week, as Venus changes gates, Jupiter the next day changes into the gate 43, which is up at the Ajna. Gate 43 we talked a little bit about yesterday. The Ajna is up here. Gate 43 right here, leading down to the throat, but not connected to the throat unless you have gate 23. And gate 43 is It's called the gate of breakthrough, but I really look at 43 as the crystallized genius within you, whether it's expressed or not. And every one of you has gate 43. Some of you have it defined, some of you don't have it defined. Some of you have it defined by your conscious line planets, some of you have it defined by your unconscious line planets. Either way you look at it, we all have all of the human design. So every one of you, this particular time period, are being called to express your genius in some way. Whether your genius is about teaching, whether your genius is about color, art, dance, whether your genius is about organization, leadership, business, it doesn't matter. Every one of you has a unique signature of your creative expression, your genius. The fear is that there's no purpose to it. That what's the purpose? And when this particular gate, this particular gene key is repressed within you, it becomes this hollow feeling. It becomes I pretend, I move through my day pretending to be happy, pretending that I'm fulfilled, but all the while feeling not happy and not fulfilled. On the more reactive side of things, this is the more dangerous side of the gene key gate 28, and that is in the adrenaline junkie, risk-taking daredevil energy, where I go out and just to feel alive, I go out and I flaunt my body. I do things that risk my life to feel alive, right? You all know adrenaline junkies, I'm sure. You all know people who, can't wait to get out there and ski the highest slopes, climb the highest mountain, even in the face of monumental odds against them. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't do things like that. I'm not saying that at all. But if we don't address the reasons why we are doing those things, then we are living from the shadow and not from the juiciness of being alive and being live in your body, living. In this gate, the shadow sometimes sees us being more afraid to live than we are afraid to die. Chew on that one for a while. More afraid to live than we are afraid to die. Really juicy, deep stuff. And you guys are all being quiet now. I hope you're chewing on this maybe. Are you contemplating all of these thoughts? I know they're deep. I know it's disturbing even, right? A lot of the things that the systems, the religions, the science, the dogmas that we've created in this world are about holding the fears at bay, right? And even in the process of giving over to a religion or to even science, where we're tempted to give away our power to it, we are living a life half lived, right? Because you're looking outside of yourself. Remember when we dealt with the gate 18? Was it 18? No, 48. And we were dealing with the well within you, where rather than looking outside of you for validation or for truth or for God or source, that you gotta come inside. That when you go inside, there's a deep well from which all of the answers that you seek come up. That was also Venus at a gate 48. 48's on the spleen, the fear, and the shadow was that of inadequacy, not good enough. But we discovered there that when we go within, we discover we have everything we need. It's all here. It's all here inside. Okay. I think that is all I have for today. I just want to let you all know that later on this week, Friday, I will be bringing on a guest, Cornelia Stephanie from the Millionaire Imprint for Women. And they launched that program last week. And she has a radio show on Transformation Talk Radio. And the three women are all experiencing different ways of imprinting wealth on, in particular, women. And so I will have Cornelia Stephanie on Friday morning talking about that for us. So that'll be at the usual time, 8 a.m. on Friday morning, West Coast time. And tomorrow we'll take up the gift of totality in the Gene Key 28 and see what that means for us all. In the meantime, I hope you all have a great day. Mwah! Much love to you all. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye.